Hi, everybody. So this is a lot of fun. We are here to do a special podcast. We are going to be talking about the James Cameron, kind of at this point, kind of classic film, Titanic. And my friend Richard is here with me, and he's been doing a special series on Titanic over on his blog. And do you want to introduce yourself and also just explain what you've been doing?
Hey. Hi, my name's Richard. My blog is velociraptor256.wordpress.com, and last month in April would be the 105th anniversary of the Titanic sinking. It's a subject I've been very interested in for a long time, ever since I saw the Cameron film, basically. And so I decided that it was just an idea I kind of had on the back burner for a little while. I was going to look at all the films and TV series based around the Titanic itself and do reviews for them. So I ended up doing 13 in all, including films and miniseries.
And were there some new things that you hadn't seen before?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was this one from 1929 called Atlantic I'd hadn't seen before, and a series called Titanic Blood and Steel, which I liked a lot.
Cool. Yeah. And of course, you watched the classic animated Titanic.
Oh yeah. Rapping dog, giant octopus.
So, what do you think attracted you to? What do you find the most interesting about the story of the Titanic?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, it's a good story for all sorts of reasons. I mean, the fact that it was the biggest ship in the world and sinks on its maiden voyage. Mm-hmm. And that it was such a game changer in terms of safety. It was a big wake up call for the fact of how complacent and the shipping industry had become in terms of safety, not having enough lifeboats on it. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this as you see in the Cameron film, this kind of microcosm of society with the rich people in first class and the poor in third class.
Yeah.
And the second class in between, which you hardly ever see in films.
And that's a good point. And the whole idea of sort of the unsinkable ship, I think it is interesting that it sort of shows the hubris of man, kind of,
yeah.
that we think that we're so smart and so know.
Yeah, that is generally one of the themes in most of the productions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite an easy thing to work with. Right.
Interesting. So I have to talk, when we start out, talk about sort of my history with this film. So I'm a lot older than you. And when it came out, I was 16 years old. And so I was like right at that, like kind of peak point of like mass hysteria or whatever. Like my friends went crazy for that. It's there's nothing else that I can think of recently that's even close to. I mean, I had a friend who saw it in the theater 18 times.
18? Oh.
18 times. I mean, and it's a long movie.
Exactly, yeah.
And I mean, my friends were so into this movie. I mean, it was just such a big deal that I think, like, I hated it in high school, and it was completely because it was a completely contrarian kind of opinion because everyone else was so crazy about it. Or maybe hate's a strong word, but I was kind of just like, oh, Titanic, it was 16, and it was just so big deal. And the song, the Celine Dion song, because I love Celine Dion, but even that song was played so much. It was just like such a huge thing. It's hard to explain like how all encompassing it was.
It was on the radio all the time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like people think like La La Land was overhyped. There's nothing compared to Titanic. It was so epic and such a big deal. So it took me a while to kind of come around to this movie and really like appreciate it and realize that it was actually a good movie because it was just kind of had to let that go, I guess, that overhypeness of the movie. So I don't know. That was kind of where I started with it. It was just it was a phenomenon. It really was.
It was. Yeah. I mean, even more than Avatar has since become the highest grossing film of all time, and yet Avatar just wasn't a phenomenon in the same way, was it?
No, I mean,
No.
Avatar was a movie theater experience. And so I think that's what made it special. And was something, it's almost more like a amusement park ride sort of experience for Avatar, that you don't have that often at the movies. Whereas Titanic was more like, you didn't have like Avatar songs and Avatar, I don't know, it was just not as all encompassing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even though it made more money.
Yeah. Well, basically, my own history with Titanic is that I was 11 when I saw it. I just finished I finished what we call primary school, my exams, and it was in the summer of 1998, and so my parents took me to see Titanic as a bit of a treat after that, because they'd already seen it, and I think I wanted to see what all the fuss was about.
Right.
A bit like with La La Land, and I just absolutely loved it. And when I just got a message on my computer for some reason, but after we saw it, I just absolutely loved it, and we got the soundtrack, and when we got the video, I watched it all the time.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I kind of I started perceiving the fact that it wasn't cool to like this film anymore after a few years, because what you say about the hype,
right?
It just suffered a bit of a backlash, and actually a lot of people were saying it wasn't really very good, and so I was kind of reluctant to admit how much I liked it. Then in 2012 the re-release came in 3D, and I decided to go and see it, and it was just a great experience seeing it on the big screen again. So I decided, okay, this is actually my favourite film. I decided to just admit it.
Yeah. Come clean, admit it. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's an interesting dynamic that you have in film that way, where it's like something, because it's not like I was just saying that I didn't like it to be objectionable. Like, I really, at that moment of my life, didn't like it because I just was so saturated with it. It was like a real expression. But like, I don't know, you kind of have to have some space to like really separate it and look at it. There's like the movement, and then there's the actual movie. And you kind of have to, especially as a teenager, it's harder to separate those two.
Yeah, with the Leo mania going on, that was the word, wasn't it? Yeah,
and so that's as an adult, I try at least to kind of separate those two and look at it objectively, but even with something like La La Land, I think that the hype is probably is too much. I think that the hate is too much. It's not a horrible movie.
No, it's
not. It's like so I think that I don't know, it's just an interesting phenomenon that happens with trends and when everything's become popular. But I'm glad that you were able to come to come to with your like of this movie. I'm glad it's your favorite. I think it's certainly a very valid favorite movie. It's a epic film, and for me, I have a few little things that I kind of wish I had done differently, but I really enjoyed it. I watched it on the it was interesting because I watched it on Monday, which was the day that we had the horrible news of the Manchester attack, and I don't know, just like it was just like a day with all this bad news, and you'd think like because there was also the announcement of the suicide of Zack Snyder's daughter, which was really sad, and I don't know, just all the sad news. And
I think Roger Moore died as well, didn't he?
Yeah, Roger Moore died, and so it seems like a weird choice to watch a movie about sinking of it, but I don't know. I think that there's something to like having a good cry and watching something like that actually was like the perfect choice, I think, for that night. It was just what I ended up needing, if that makes sense.
I suppose it does. I mean, even though it's based around the disaster is really the backdrop, isn't it? But
Yeah.
really, the story is this romance between Jack and Rose, which is kind of this basic melodramatic story. Poor boy meets rich girl. He
Yeah, it's kind of
teaches her things.
escapism,
Yeah,
entertainment, and
yeah,
I do think there's something to sort of a movie that has those sort of tragic scenes, that it can be kind of cathartic to see. And so, but anyway, that it was interesting to rewatch, and I really did enjoy it, and I was glad that I saw it.
yeah.
And so let's talk about it. So they start out with this research team,
Mm-hmm.
and you have Rose, that is a 100-year-old woman, I think,
Yeah.
and she sees they find the vault, and they find the drawing that Jack did of hers, and she sees it, and she realizes it's her. And so anyway, we get this whole sort of introduction and we find out she's going to basically be the narrator of the story.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you like that setup?
I do like that a lot. I mean, the fact that they actually start with the wreck. I mean, everybody who goes into this film already knows what happens because it's such a well-known story. So they might as well just start with that framing device. I think it does add an extra. It does add an extra level to the story.
Yeah. I mean, I think it works because it is Rose's story, and it kind of keeps sort of grounded on her. And I think that it's Gloria Stewart, right?
Yeah. She was she actually was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for this film, and she was the oldest person ever to be nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah, and she was good.
Yeah.
She was very good. I think she deserved that.
Yeah, she had a very long career as well. I mean, she was working for Universal back in like the 1930s.
Yeah, I read that they thought about casting casting the lady from King Kong,
Fay Wray.
Yeah. But then they interviewed her, and she just had that quality, that they liked. And I mean, and James Cameron, he worked on this for, I mean, you got to admire the man that he never phones it in. Like, people can not like Avatar, whatever. I don't care. I like it. But he always puts in, like, that's why he only makes a movie like every 10 years, because he always gives it 110%, and he certainly did with this.
I've heard stories. He's a bit of a tyrant on set.
Yeah, I mean,
there's been like actors who did one film with him and then vowed they'd never work with him again.
That's interesting, because most of the people that he's worked with have worked with him again. Yeah. Well, I guess
I think it was Ed Harris who said that in The Abyss after some kind of stunt that went a bit wrong.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, you just think of what all that they had to do in order to build the whole ship, and just everything would have been just so amazing to do, and it was one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive films ever made.
$200 million, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this expectation it was going to bomb.
Yeah.
But it is really impressive if you just look at the stuff behind the scenes that they made. It's actually kind of the big model that they made, I think, in Mexico, of the actual life-size ship, which would then sink as well. It's actually only one side of the ship, and so when they were filming the scenes in Southampton, because the Titanic was facing the other way at the dock, they had to like do all the letters backwards and then flip the camera.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, it feels real. Like, it feels
exactly.
Because it is real. It feels real because it is real.
I mean, some historians, they do point out a few little errors here and there, but more than any other film, it does bring the Titanic to life, I feel. It does have the most accurate scenery. Yeah.
I mean, and just the attention to detail, like with everything from the china down to the way that just the attention to detail is perfect as far as that kind of thing goes.
Yeah, but Cameron, he does have a lot of detail in all his films. Like you usually have like there's often like relevant stuff going on in the background. I mean, sometimes you see in this film you see characters that you see characters that you'll see later on in the background. I think when Jack and Fabrizio got on board and they go into their cabin, there's that blonde Norwegian woman that you see Fabrizio dancing with later. She kind of walks past and Fabrizio kind of looks after her.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many like little, like it's such an epic movie that you kind of forget those details. But I think that's all those details are sort of part of making it epic. Like it's kind of like I heard this quote once from Emma Thompson where she said that you only notice the craft services table in the shot in a bad movie, but like a good movie. A good movie, you're so immersed in the story and you're so immersed in things that you don't notice those little details, but it's all part of either mistakes or good things. But it's all part of sort of that immersive experience, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's see my next question. So we get this initial setup that Rose is being forced into this marriage with this guy named Cal to save her family. And do you feel a little bit that Billy Zane overcooks it a little bit as a villainy guy? Kind of, I don't know.
In the later stages, I'll say. I mean, when we first see Cal, he's clearly not the kind of the nicest person since ordering for Rose at the table and that. But it's only like when things aren't really going his way, he becomes a proper villain. I mean, pulling out the gun during the sinking is kind of over the top, but he is quite charismatic, and he is quite he's quite one of those people you love to hate in the later series.
Yeah,
scenes.
I mean, I don't know. There's always in these romantic stories. There's always the girl is always engaged to a jerk, and then she meets the right guy. And and I don't know, like this is a weird comparison, but like one of the things I like about there's this movie Sweet Home Alabama. Have you ever seen it?
I think I've seen some of it.
It's not a great movie, but one of the things I like about it is that she's actually engaged to a nice guy, and so she's having to choose between a nice guy and a nice guy. And I think that I kind of wish that they had done that a little bit, because I think that that it would make it more interesting if she had a harder choice to make. It's so obvious that she should be with Jack. It's so obvious that this guy's a jerk. It's so, like it makes her decision a little bit less complex. But I guess you have such a small window of time that you're talking about that maybe that's what you need. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably with all romances set on the Titanic. You only have a few days. If people have just met each other, then they need to fall in love very quickly.
Yeah.
And basically, the thing about this engagement, it's very quite clear that Rose didn't really choose Cal. It was it's kind of it was a necessary thing for her family.
Yeah.
She's not really marrying him for his personality.
Yeah, and we should say that all three of these lead characters are completely fictional.
Yeah, exactly.
Rose and Jack.
They're all fictional.
Right.
There is actually a lot of the Titanic victims were buried in Halifax in Nova Scotia. There's a cemetery there, and there's actually a grave called J. Dawson.
Oh, interesting.
Which actually is actually a stoker on board the ship. I think he's called Joseph Dawson, but he gets a lot of attention from fans of the movie who thought it might be Jack.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he overcooks it just a little bit, but it works. It's sort of a soapy. I look at this as sort of a very well made, and I don't mean this as an insult to say it's a soap opera, but I think it's a soap opera in all the good ways of a soap opera as far as the story. Yeah. And it's executed really, really well, and it's done in a really entertaining way. But I don't know, it just sort of follows that sort of formula of kind of things. But so Jack saves Rose from committing suicide. That's where they meet, basically. And I don't know, what do you think of that scene? Do you buy that she? Sorry,
I do really like that scene. I like the dialogue they have, and I think it was one of the things that our parents were telling me about before I'd actually seen the film. Just when you see it, like the way it's acted and just how it's been scripted. I do like the conversation that they have about it. How he kind of approaches cautiously and then kind of manages to talk around.
Yeah, it was really good, and they just have such good chemistry.
Oh yeah,
that's key. I mean, in this kind of movie, if you don't have chemistry, then it's just not going to work at all.
Yeah, well, they did actually appear in another film, didn't they? Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, called Revolutionary Road.
I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. No,
I heard it's very, very depressing. It's totally different.
I got
than
that
this.
impression. Yeah. It's probably why I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I heard it's good, but yeah, very, very down, very sad. So let's see here. Yeah, I thought that was a really good scene, and it kind of just it sets up that these two people think the same, even though they're from different worlds. You know, that they have a very kind of similar way of thinking, and they have this chemistry right out front.
Well, imaginative minds, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that they're both kind of impulsive, sort of, and have similar ways of thinking about things.
Yeah, well, jumping off the Titanic is certainly an impulsive decision, isn't it?
Yeah. So we already talked about it. So Leonardo DiCaprio was an interesting choice, I think, for this lead role. I don't know. He wasn't your typical kind of leading man kind of, he has sort of a boyish quality to him, I feel like, in this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so I think it was a really interesting choice, and Kate Winslet hadn't been in that many movies at this point.
No, she hadn't.
It seems like an obvious choice now, of course, Kate Winslet, but it was actually, pretty interesting choice, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember. Let's just see when he was in Romeo and Juliet. I can't remember if that was 1996 or 1998, but I think it might have been 1996.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was before this film.
Okay.
So I guess he was known for that one. I think he'd been in this. Is that you?
What's that?
Is that? I just heard a noise. Was that?
Oh, I don't know. I guess Claire Danes had been considered for the role. After Romeo and Juliet, which I really like that Romeo and Juliet.
I think he'd been in this film called What's Eating Gilbert Grape, hadn't he? Playing this kind of retarded boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's I haven't seen that movie actually, but I've heard he's really good in it. Yeah. And I don't know, he was in the conversation. I don't know if it was even for Oscars for it. I forget if it was. I don't know. I can't remember, but anyway, and I don't know. It's not your typical, like what I would think of as sort of, especially for this kind of a story, for this kind of soapy story, you'd picture like a little bit more sort of an alpha male kind of character, like more like a Ryan Gosling kind of character to be this like leading man. But they went with this more scrappy kind of character, which I think really works. And I like that they did that.
I know that's kind of the person that Jack is, and he kind of he's kind of more fresh-faced.
Yeah,
he's kind of youthful, energetic person, and who's still seeing a bit of the world. And Leonardo DiCaprio, he really gets into that very well.
Yeah,
and I just think it's quite surprising just how far he's come since then.
Yeah,
is that you just look at him in Titanic, you can't imagine him doing things like The Revenant and
poor Leonardo DiCaprio. What he had to do to get that Oscar, right?
I know. I mean, I watched this review by this critic called Bob Chipman, who did this review of Titanic. He was kind of suggesting that because of the whole Leo mania thing, he felt that Leo DiCaprio had gone for all these quite punishing roles, like in Irrelevant, to kind of in a way to kind of make up for Titanic.
Interesting.
It's kind of strange outlook.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem when something becomes so big as it can't overtake your career. And that's probably what he meant by that, is my guess. Is more to I don't know, be a one-trick pony kind of a thing.
And to kind of get away from that role where teenage girls are kind of fixated on him.
Yeah. And believe you me, they were fixated on him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was intense. So So we see, and I think that Kate Winslet had been in she'd been in Hamlet. I think she'd been in Sense and Sensibility.
She was Ophelia in Hamlet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So she'd been in a few things, but and I do appreciate the fact that like she's more normal looking, if that makes like she's certainly skinny and she's certainly not, but she's a little bit more approachable than some actresses they could have picked, if that makes sense. It's just more of a normal body type in this movie, which I like. And I don't know, she's just more, she's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But I appreciate that they went with somebody who felt, I don't know, just a little bit more approachable than than someone. I can't even remember. I like Sandra Bullock or somebody like that. This is more approachable, I think, or Cameron Diaz or something.
Oh no. She has kind of got more of a natural look, hasn't she, than say Cameron Diaz?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So okay. So then basically, she convinces Cal to allow Jack to come to dinner with them as a reward for saving her. Yeah. And he dresses up in the tux. And I think I tweeted out, they just never have let him put on that tux.
I did see that. Yeah.
It's a bad choice. Yeah. And so we get this kind of scene with the contrast between the lower deck partying and the upper deck in the tux kind of thing. What do you think of all that?
Well, I think it's he's basically just make clear. Do you not like the way the tux guy looks on him then?
The tux?
The tux, yeah.
No, he looks great. That's what I'm saying. They should never let him wear that tux. Like, forget it. There was no way she wasn't going to be interested in him after he put on that tux.
That's what you mean. Yeah, I didn't get that.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying Cal should never have let him put on that tux. That's what I meant.
Well, he wasn't expecting it, was he?
No, because he looked very handsome in the tux.
There was apparently there was like some discussion about and when they were making the scripts about that they needed to get Jack into first class and into a tux somehow, and they couldn't decide how they're going to do it. And one of the historians finally decided, well, Molly Brown had a son about Jack's age, so maybe she gave it to him, and so that's what they went with. And I do really like both of the scenes, both going into first class and then going for the third class party, because I think even going into first class has to have a level of fantasy to it, because he getting to dress up in your best clothes and going to this really swanky dining saloon. It's something that most people wouldn't do. I mean, because I've only worn a tuxedo I think twice in my life for the university balls. In a couple of years I was at university. Yeah, it was quite a nice thing to do.
I've only worn a formal, aside from dances, it's in high school, which I only went to a couple. I've been to, the only other thing I can think of like that is that I've been in two wedding parties where I had to wear like a formal dress and whatever. So two weddings is the only thing I think of like that. But yeah, it is an interesting contrast. Yeah. I did tweet. I was like, Titanic proves that poor people have more fun. Yeah. Just kind of it is sort of like the romanticism of the rich and the poor. It kind of gets done a little bit.
Because the rich just have so much etiquette involved, don't they?
Yeah.
I do think it's quite funny the way Jack kind of acts at the table, how he just starts eating his roll at one point, talking with his mouth full. And he just chucks his box of cigarettes at Cal.
Yeah.
And then when he first comes down the stairs as well, he's trying to kind of mimic everybody around him, just trying to fit in.
Right. Yeah, there's sort of in between the two, and you get to see sort of Rose interacting with his world, he interacting with her world, and so that really works.
Yeah. I mean, things like that with Jack is kind of. I've heard some people suggest that Jack is kind of the male equivalent of a manic pixie dream girl for Rose. But we kind of little details like how he acts in first class. It's kind of it kind of gives him a character of his own. He's not just there as a hollow shell to serve Rose's story.
That's interesting. And I can see how you could make that argument, but it's the type of story it is. Like, you have to, like, this is it's a kind of a soap opera, but it's executed well, and so you kind of have to accept certain character tropes and certain character types in particular types of stories. Like, if you're gonna watch a war movie, there's gonna be the hardened general. That's just going to happen. Like, it's part of that genre.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's interesting though. I wouldn't have thought of that, but
yeah, because the characters are quite like simple in a lot of ways, and yet it still works with the kind of story it's trying to tell. It kind of it inspires the right emotions. And
I think that it works because of the chemistry. I think that if they didn't have good chemistry and weren't likable actors, then it wouldn't work, and you would be bothered by all of this.
Oh yeah, they're definitely very likable actors, definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk about the side characters. I do think that Kathy Bates is my favorite as Molly Brown.
Yeah.
My only sort of problem, my big problem with this movie, if I could fix it, my one knock against it is I feel like I wish that these side characters were better developed. I wish you got more time with them. It's such a long movie. I feel like they could have used some of the length to develop some of these side characters a little bit more. And I don't know. It's just when the end happens, I feel like I should feel like this is a whole ship that is going down. And there are moments where I feel that way, but the saddest part is Jack and Rose. And I feel like it would be even sadder if I really felt more invested in these sort of whole ship and in this, at least more of these side characters. I wish that we had more with Molly. I wish that we had more with like Andrews and the captain, and I don't know, just some of these side characters that I think are good. I wish that we got more of them.
Hey, personally, I think that I'm quite happy with what we do get. I mean, it would be hard to give them more without making the movie a lot longer. But we basically do see enough of them to get an idea of the kind of people that they are and the roles that they played with the historical aspect. Because I feel like you do get some sense of the history when you see the captain and Bruce is made the White Star Line owner talking together, and some of the things that are discussed with Andrews and that. I think So yeah, I do understand what you mean about the side characters, but I feel it's I'm personally satisfied with what's there.
Okay. Do you have a favorite of the sort of side characters that you like the most?
Probably, I do like Molly a lot. Even though apparently she was never actually called Molly Brown in her lifetime, she was just Margaret.
Oh, interesting.
That's kind of a myth, but I do like Andrews a lot as well. He's just a nice guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you feel bad for him because he
it just all went wrong.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I didn't know that about I wonder how they got the whole name then, Sinkable Molly Brown.
Yeah, I think it was just something that I think there was a musical, wasn't there, that the film with Debbie Reynolds was I think was based on.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure where or when the name Molly Brown originated.
Yeah, I think it must have been something in the reporting or something like that. But
But I think she'd said in some interview the ship wasn't unsinkable, but I am.
So Rose has Jack sketch her with the necklace.
Yeah.
Did you buy her doing that? Like, did it seem sudden? Did it seem like believable?
Right. It is a slightly odd thing to do in between everything else.
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw it. I was still at that age to be a little bit shocked by seeing a naked woman on screen.
It's surprising for PG-13 they could get away with how much they show and how often they show it. It's a little surprising. They must have just gotten just close, close enough.
Yeah, apparently it was actually James Cameron who did all those sketches.
Really?
All the Jack sketches, so that the hand you see doing it is James Cameron's.
Oh, interesting. Who knew? Interesting.
I should
Yeah.
just going before all that, the probably the most famous scene in the film, the flying scene in the bow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
like
You're
you like
right.
that scene because I love that scene.
Yeah.
It's very cheesy, but I just absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm glad you remembered that. That is a really good scene, and I guess it makes sense after that scene that she would be comfortable with him drawing her because she was partly doing the drawing to get back at Cal, first of all, and second of all, she'd had that "Do you trust me?" kind of moment on the bow, and the music really helps that scene also.
Yeah, and I love that kind of sweeping shot of the ship that as it kind of goes in towards it, you see them at the bow.
Yeah,
I love the shots like that in this film.
so you saw it when they released it in the 3D.
I did, yeah.
That must have been pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it was
in 3D.
Yeah, the thing I remember best about the 3D is the bubbles underwater.
Oh,
like when they're first approaching a wreck, you can see all the little bubbles.
Cool. Yeah. I actually, believe it or not, because I was so grumpy about it, I've never seen this in the theater. I just in high school, and I didn't see it, and then I saw it on home video, and then I actually randomly, the very first time that I ever watched it, I was actually on a plane going to Italy.
All right.
Yeah, this was random, but there you go. So yeah, that is a really good scene, and again, everything is sort of based in this working because of their chemistry, and so you buy that she would do the things she does because they fit so well, and that's such a hard thing because it's one of those parts of storytelling or movie making that's intangible, that it's like out of the control of everybody involved, like whether characters and whether actors have good chemistry together. It's just one of those things, like either it's there or it's not, and when they don't, it's just like so, like you can have good performances, you can have everything well staged, and you can have good cinematography, and if you have bad chemistry, it's just tough. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when the story is built around these two characters, they have to kind of go together, don't they?
Yeah. So okay, then they have their night together, which is very 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 exciting, in the car, and it was pretty romantic, pretty steamy scene.
Yeah, very literally steamy, yeah.
Yeah. And let's see here. So then pretty much right after that, you get the scraping of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And
you kind of notice the distance between the ship and the iceberg. It seems to be quite short right from the beginning. It seems to approach the iceberg very slowly. But even when they first see it, it's like they're almost right on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when you keep looking away and it's only a little bit closer.
Now you know a lot more about this than I do. As far as the sort of the way that the events play out, in your understanding, is it pretty accurate to how things played out?
I believe it is. Yeah. The way they kind of, like I said, the iceberg was a bit further away when they saw it, and there's a bit of debate about whether the order given was to either put the ship into reverse or to stop, because putting it into reverse would have hindered its ability to turn. But the officer who gave that order, Murdoch, he didn't survive. So there's not that much testimony to go on with that.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing that it's just that little. I mean, it seems like a huge boat should be able to handle getting kind of grazed like it is. It doesn't seem like. It's amazing that it could cause the whole boat to go down.
I know. Basically what it did was just shear off the rivet heads that were holding the plates together, so the plates kind of opened up. And when they've done like sonar scans of the wreck, they found there's just like these 6 separate gaps caused by the iceberg at the bow, which then caused the first 5 watertight compartments to start flooding, because that was what's supposed to protect the ship, the watertight compartments down below. And as Andrew said, as the Titanic could have stayed afloat if the first 4 compartments were flooded, but 5 would be enough to weigh it down that the water would start spilling over. And at that point, the ship wasn't going to stay afloat.
And they had like 2,100 passengers.
Yeah, 2,200 passengers in crew.
Okay, 2,200.
Which wasn't actually full capacity. First full capacity would have been something like more than 3,000.
Oh, okay. And they only ended up saving 700?
Yeah, because there were only lifeboats for about 1,100, and most of those lifeboats were launched below capacity.
Yeah, interesting. And I mean, they were just so confident, I guess, that it was unsinkable, I guess.
Well, yeah, the whole point was the ship was supposed to be its own lifeboat.
Mm-hmm.
So they felt that there wasn't that much need to invest in the proper lifeboats because that way there'll be more room on the deck.
I mean, it is amazing that they could get it that wrong, that they could be that wrong about it being unsinkable.
Yeah, with hindsight, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was quite a strange accident. The fact that it kind of sideswiped the iceberg, that's what caused the really fatal damage. Whereas if it had hit the iceberg head on, then it probably wouldn't have sunk. The bow would have been completely wrecked, but it would probably have stayed afloat because not so many compartments would have flooded.
Oh, interesting! I didn't know that.
Yeah. But then when you see an iceberg right in front of you, you're going to want to turn away from it, aren't you?
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So then we get we switched from being a soapy romantic story to being a disaster movie, kind of for the rest of the thing, and I think they make that transition really well.
Yeah. Because you know it's coming anyways, and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the fact as well that they've before Rose starts telling a story to show that's a computer simulation of the sinking, so you know everything that's happening without it having to be explained to you. Because I remember when I first saw this movie, I was going to say when I first saw this, I didn't actually know the Titanic had split in two as it was sinking.
Oh, interesting.
So that kind of a surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of parts of what happened that I didn't know about, but obviously everyone knows the Titanic sunk, but the sort of the how I wouldn't have known that it was grazed like that or how it hit or things like that. So you can learn. It's interesting because people freak out about spoilers these days. Like, don't tell me anything about it, but like. Oh, yeah. When in reality, like, we can enjoy a movie like Apollo 13 or Titanic or, like all these films and we know the ending.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey. That's right. So then we get Cal accuses Jack of stealing, and you have this Rose puts the note she puts the picture, the drawing, in Cal's safe, and puts a note in there, and I don't know. So he ends up being Cal ends up sending Jack to like it's not really like a prison, but whatever, like security or
it's just an office for the Master of Arms, really, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there was an actual brig or anything like that.
Yeah, and it seems like Rose at a certain point has sort of rejected him or believes that he really stole it or something like that. And of course he didn't, and anyway, so there's sort of this melodrama in this section.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression she was a bit in shock and she was confused and didn't really know what to think. But then she had actually asked him to put the diamond back into safe, and maybe she was kind of thinking to herself, did he take it then?
Yeah.
So she doesn't really know this guy that well. She's known for a few days,
right? Yeah. So and then she ends up going on the lifeboat with her. Or getting ready to go on the lifeboat with her mom, but then she ends up leaving her mom to go and find Jack, who is handcuffed to a pipe when the water is coming in. This water would have been like 32 degrees, like freezing.
Yeah. I don't do Fahrenheit, so but it would have been.
Right.
Definitely freezing. Yeah.
Freezing. Okay.
Which is what killed most of the people.
Yeah. So she I guess is a woman in love because she doesn't make the right choices, these things, but she follows her heart, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah,
it builds tension pretty well, though, I think.
I know, yeah, because in the end to get what is. I mean, I think I've seen some other reviews. Guys, the guys say this is an action movie in some ways, but you get to this disaster section,
Yeah.
and when you go down into the bowels of the ship, and the
Yeah.
water's coming in, and Rose is just. I mean, at one point she's just sitting in this corridor, calling for help, and everything's kind of groaning around her. And that does create a lot of tension. And then when she gets back to the corridor where Jack is with the axe, and it's almost completely flooded, and she has to go and kind of gives this kind of gasp as she goes into the water.
I like it when she punches that guy in the face. That's pretty good.
Yeah, losing with a bloody nose.
Yeah. That's pretty good. So yeah, it's some good tense scenes. Well done. And then she's on the lifeboat, and Jack and Cal are both telling her, get on the lifeboat, get on the lifeboat. And Cal says, I have a spot. Jack can be on that lifeboat. They have a life. He's like paid off one of the guards so that he can have a spot at one of the lifeboats at the top of the ship. And of course, she gets on the boat, and then he tells Jack, "Oh, I always win, or I always come out on top, or whatever." And I feel like at that point, like I really think at that point, like you wouldn't be worrying about stuff like this. Like I feel like you would just be more sort of selfishly like looking out like for yourself as far as like who I just don't think you would be like petty. I don't know. I feel like it gets a little over the top here with Cal.
You mean like the way how he just kind of the fact that he's making time to tell Jack I always win.
Yeah,
rather than heading off for his lifeboat.
Just I don't know. It's interesting. And then he gets like you said earlier, the gun, and he's like shooting, and chasing Jack around the boat and stuff. It's like, get on the lifeboat, you crazy man.
Yeah. I will say there was a way you bring up about Cal giving a bribe to the Officer Murdoch. There was actually a bit of an outcry about that because Officer Murdoch was a real person who died in the sinking and his hometown was quite annoyed, both that the camera depicted him apparently accepting a bribe. I don't think he really accepts it. Just like Cal sticks the money in his pocket, and he doesn't like explicitly refuse it until later on when he says your money can't save you any more than it can save me. And then also the fact that we see him shooting two people and then himself, they didn't like that either.
Well, I was going to ask you about that he, I don't know, what do you think of that?
Well, basically, it's one of those things that was brought up but can't be proved either way. There were a few survivors who said that they'd seen an officer shooting himself, but Murdoch's body was never recovered, so you can't really tell how he died. But it's just one of those things where there's not enough evidence.
Right.
So it might have happened, but basically, I think someone had to, for 20th Century Fox, had to go to this village where Murdoch had lived and apologise.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, it's sort of this interesting kind of dynamic because he's shot these two men for not mobbing the boat and because he's trying to maintain order. And then he realizes what he's done, and then he shoots himself. You're just like, I don't know. It's pretty intense.
He's kind of reached the end anyway. The ship's about to go under. He's probably not going to survive.
Yeah, because those lifeboats were harder to. There was something about them that was making them harder to get. To their position.
They were the collapsibles. Yeah, so they would be kind of. I think it does like pull the sides up. And then preferably put them on the davits, but those ones because it was already too late. They had to just float them off the deck, and then one of them came down upside down before they could right it.
Yeah. So let's see here. For me, the saddest moment at the I should say it. So she actually last minute jumps off the boat and decides to go with Jack. And of course, it's a really stupid thing to do, but
he says so,
whatever. It works for the moment. And then I think the saddest moments of the movie are these little moments with these side characters that you see. that
People we have seen before, yeah.
That you see the mother reading to her children. That's probably the saddest moment, I think, more than even Jack dying. But I don't know, just the orchestra playing "Near My God to Thee," just all these little sort of when you see the captain, you see Andrews. I think those side moments are actually the most moving of this sort of segment.
Yeah, I think the worst bit for me was like when Captain Smith is standing around and that woman with the baby comes and asks him, where should I go? When at the point where there are no lifeboats left. And then later on you see that woman and the baby in the water dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always feel quite sensitive about seeing children get and dying in films.
Yeah, that's really sad.
I mean, even like that little boy that Jack and Rose see in the corridor and his father comes and grabs him and then they get swept away by the water.
Yeah, that's really sad. And that's just why I wish that maybe we got to know some of these side characters a little bit more, because it would, I think, be even like sadder if we really kind of knew more. But they are good moments. I mean, sad moments, but good moments. So
practically all the side characters die as well. I mean, just like maybe we see Rose's
except
mother and Molly Brown
Molly.
get away, and Cal and people, but then the captain and Andrews and most of the people in third class. I think you briefly see the maid Trudy dying. I think she's one who goes sliding down the deck at one point.
Wasn't there somebody who in the Titanic who like kind of dressed not in drag, but like was hiding? It was a man hiding as a woman.
Yeah, I think at least one person did that. Yeah. It's not quite certain who it was, but he like just put a shawl around his head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you get that a few times in films. I mean, like in the miniseries, the miniseries that came out before this film, Tim Curry's character, who's kind of the villain of that series, he actually gets into a lifeboat doing that.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. So let's see. Then you get the boat splitting is kind of the next thing, and which is crazy. It's just crazy that this huge thing could just so quickly in 2 hours go from being like a fine, like boat to like splitting in two. It's really crazy.
Yeah, it just looks so dramatic, that part.
Mm-hmm.
But they hadn't actually known that it. When I said that I hadn't known the Titanic split in two, it wasn't actually known for certain that it had until the wreck was discovered, because most of the highest profile survivors, like the officers, said that it's they felt it had gone down in one piece. Maybe they just hadn't seen from the angle that we're at. They might not have seen the breakup. But like in all the previous films, you see it going down in one piece.
Yeah, interesting. And it must have killed them to have to destroy some of these sets and some of this stuff that they did. Because and like all these plates get crashing down and just all that must have been hard.
I know, because some of it they had to do more than once. I mean, I was before we did this, I was like watching some of these features on the DVD about the making, and they were showing like flooding the dining room in that set. And I think Happy Brates was asking James Cameron, so is this like a one-shot deal? And Cameron said, no, it can't be, because of all the things you got to go. So they had to like sink the dining room into the water, so all the plates and chairs went everywhere, and then they have to raise it up again and dry it out, and and then do it again. I mean, there's actually a deleted scene in which like after Cal has kind of chased Jack and Rose into the dining room and they're escaping that way, there's a deleted scene where Lovejoy, the valet, goes after them and tries to get the diamond, and Jack has to fight him off. And that's why when you kind of briefly see Lovejoy when the ship breaks apart, he has this kind of head wound, and that's where he got that from.
Well, yeah, we should mention that Cal gives Rose his coat. Yeah. And the coat he forgets that he put the diamond in the coat. So Rose ends up having the diamond.
Yeah. Well, he kind of says he put the diamond in the coat, and he kind of laughs about it.
Yeah, he's like, oh, man.
So maybe he did it deliberately, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's kind of a suggestion that maybe it was I don't know if you know, but there is actually an alternate ending as well, where Rose is about to drop the diamond off the ship, and Bill Paxton's character actually sees her doing it, and they talk for a little while about it, and she says something like So like the hardest part of being so poor was being so rich. But every time I thought about selling the diamond, I thought of Cal, and I wanted to prove that I could get by without him. So maybe that was the idea that Cal had. Even if she ran away and survived, she'd still be dependent on him with this, for giving her this diamond, because she wouldn't be able to get by without it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Huh, interesting. Yeah, it is kind of like, oh, you could have donated it or something.
Yeah.
Instead of throwing it in the water. Okay, so then the boat splits, and you get, it is pretty dramatic when you see them like basically like hanging on to the front of the ship, and I don't know, and you got that minister that is kind of reading, like talking and praying, and people are just holding on for, I don't know, it's amazing.
Just such good effects in this movie. A lot of it was real, but it also have like the digitally inserted people. And I think the CGI really holds up. I mean, sometimes you can tell that it's CGI, but it just looks really amazing.
It does. It holds up. There's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing in this movie, in my opinion, that feels dated. No. As far as anything, I don't. You could release this now and it would totally stand as a 2017 movie. I think. Well,
when they released it in 2012, I think it did pretty well. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not just because of nostalgia. I mean, it could. It looks good even now, for sure. So even people that don't love the romance story can't deny that this movie looks great.
Oh, yeah.
And then basically like Rose and Jack are in the water, and she's able to get onto this piece of wood, and he tries, but then it starts to sink, and also you see Molly in her boat saying we have to go back to, there's spots, we should go save these people, and they say no. And then finally they do go, but they're too late to save. And I guess they only ended up pulling 6 people from the water.
It was only a small number as well. I can't remember if it was actually 6, but it was only a few at that point.
Okay, well that's what Rose. I think what Rose says in the movie. So I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, because most of the lifeboats got quite some distance away at that point, and like it was pitch black, so it was hard to see where everybody else was. So even if they tried to get back to the spot where the ship had sunk, because they were all afraid as well that the ship would suck the boats down if they were too close to it. And the idea of what the guy in Molly's boat said, that if they go back, the big crowds of people are going to swamp the boat completely and everybody dies. Yeah, but it's just so awful, that scene where they go back among just all these bodies.
It is.
It just looks completely frozen.
It really is, and that if they had, I don't know, it's just amazing. You think of people going from dining and having a normal day, whatever, to within 2 hours. Like, that's just amazing to think of all that happening.
It's one of the big dramatic parts of the story. It just happened out of nowhere, really.
Yeah. Crazy.
And he had all these quite well-known people at the time that were involved, and many of whom died. Yeah.
I mean, and do you feel that when you see Jack and Rose, their final moments together, like, is that moving for you?
Yeah. It just I was very sad that Jack had to die. It was. And ultimately that he does inspire her to not to give up, to carry on surviving, and that she does take the message to heart. And so after he's gone, she goes and calls the lifeboat back with that whistle and goes on from there.
Yep.
I think there is a bit of a controversy these days about whether or not they could have both fitted on that piece of wood. Have you ever seen Bruce Almighty, the Jim Carrey film?
I never have.
No, because there's a scene, he plays this reporter, and there's a scene where he gets where he's quite angry about something, and he starts interviewing this old woman as if she's the old lady from Titanic, and saying, "Did you feel guilty about leaving Leonardo DiCaprio in the water while you're on the wood? Could you have maybe taken turns?" Yes, but I think if they'd taken
turns,
well, I think if they'd taken turns, they probably both have gotten hypothermia from the water.
I think so. 'Cause she was pretty
Yeah.
close. She could barely talk.
I know, yeah, it was
She
really
could
cold.
barely talk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I've never been in water that cold, but I have
No.
friends who I have crazy friends who have done these ice swims where you swim for
Yeah.
a mile in frozen water,
Yeah.
and it has to be 32 degrees, which is freezing, and in order to do it, and you get certified as an ice swimmer, and these are like pretty much professional open water swimmers, and they can hardly survive, like hardly tolerate it,
Yeah.
and so let alone just some person in not that's not trained and ready couldn't. There's no way. So
Yeah. They would have been unconscious in just a few minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, the thing that always strikes me about getting in really cold water is that you start hyperventilating.
Hmm.
I don't know if you found that in really cold water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the coldest I've probably ever been in is like 60 degrees, and that's
Yeah.
even that is like, you feel a shock to your
Yeah. Yeah.
system.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what the coldest I've been in is, but
Yeah.
I just remember it was cold enough to make me start breathing very, very quickly.
Hmm. Like one of my friends had to have an ambulance come. I don't know why they do this stupid ice swimming, but had to have an ambulance come. And like I said, he's a trained athlete, and he had to do that. So yeah, it's tough. So yeah, that's sort of the ending of the movie, and it really is a epic. It's an epic movie. It's just it's a spectacle. It's the kind of movie that just doesn't come along that often. I feel like a true spectacle entertainment.
No, I think that is what struck me about it when I first saw it. I think it is such a great spectacle with these great 80 effects and this just bringing this big disaster to life. It's a good all rounder as well. I mean, that's just like a little bit of everything, like the action and romance and this drama. What I was going to say about the ending, I think it's meant to be quite ambiguous, the ending, about whether Rose is dreaming or whether she's actually died and gone to the afterlife. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
The
very end, when she's in bed and then she goes back onto the ship
and throws the necklace in the water.
Yeah, so after she's done that, and then we see her in bed, and then there's a scene where she kind of walks through this crowd on the ship and sees Jack there.
Oh, right. I don't know if that's dreaming or I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I can't think maybe that she actually had died, because I remember when I was watching this in the cinema in 2012, I was noticing things that I hadn't noticed before. I noticed that when Jack is standing at the top of the staircase, the clock behind him is at 20 minutes past 2, which is the time that the Titanic sank. And so I'm wondering if that kind of indicates that it is the afterlife, and Rose has kind of passed on to finally be reunited with Jack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never thought about that, but it definitely could be, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so let's talk about the music. James Horner, Oscar-winning score, and the song "Heart Will Go On," Celine Dion, and she can sing. Like, she's a great singer.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what people say. Yes, she's kind of cheesy, but I like her singing, and I think I like this score a lot. I think it's so good.
Oh yeah, it's such a brilliant score by James Horner. I think he's my favourite musical composer, movie composer. And just and like I said, I have the soundtrack of this film. He's just so great.
He's so good at, I think, creating gentle moments. Like, it's certainly our epic, and "My Heart Will Go On" is a very epic song. But also, I don't know, he's just throughout his career, he created. I always appreciated sort of the more gentle moments that he was able to create, as opposed to like a John Williams, where it's very epic, like almost all
Superman and Jurassic Park and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think some people accuse like James Horner of kind of reusing some of his own music in some of his gentle things, like some of his violin maybe sound a bit similar to each other.
They all do that. Hans Zimmer does it. Everyone. They all do that. So that doesn't bother me. Michael Giacchino, they all do it. But I think that, like, if you look at Land Before Time, or just, he has this way of creating these gentle moments that I really appreciate in his scores. And they're some of my favorite just to like listen to, because some scores I feel like are hard to listen to because it's just so bombastic all the time, but his are just really pleasant to listen to.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. So I will say about Celine Dion as well. I mean, it is one of my favorite songs. Still, My Heart Will Go On. It's but I do. I think I said on Twitter, I really love Celine Dion. I'm actually going to be seeing her in concert next month.
I've seen her.
Have you?
I did. I saw her in Las Vegas. When it was kind of funny. My friends, I was just at this point, like I needed to get away. Like I was just so like, I was just so like stuck in work, and I was like, I had to get away. And then my friends were going to this Star Trek convention in Las Vegas, and they were, and so I went with them. And even though I'm not Star Trek, I wasn't a Star Trek fan at all, and I'd never seen any Star Trek. And
Star Wars, aren't you?
Yeah, Star Wars. Now I like Star Trek, but back then I hadn't seen any Star Trek. And anyways, but I went with them because I just was like, I don't care what we're doing. I need to get away. And because Las Vegas is like, it's like a 6-7 hour drive from where I live.
All right.
Yeah. And anyway, so we ended up going to Celine Dion, her show that she did in Las Vegas. And she's amazing. She's great.
Oh, yeah. She hasn't been to the UK for ages, so it's very exciting, really.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah, she will. The only thing I had gripes with her is I felt like the concert was a little short for the price. I felt like she should have sang like a couple more songs, but it was really good. And she knows how to belt. Like she knows how to get that. She has just a set of pipes.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, she was certainly a good choice for this film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think she was. I remember seeing this clip on Twitter quite recently where she was asked about My Heart Will Go On and whether she was kind of sick of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she said that she's going to be known for this one song. She's glad that it's a classic song.
Yeah, I think it's sort of similar with like Idina Menzel and Let It Go. You know, like you just have to kind of accept the legacy of the this song. You know,
don't you mean Adele Dazeem?
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I mean, I loved Celine Dion ever since she was sang Beauty and the Beast. So. Okay, so we talked about the sets, the production design, and it really feels like a drowning of the ship. I mean, the
Titanic itself is practically a character with all the detail, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's basically all the questions that I had. Did you have any other parts you want to talk about?
I was going to say about we really chance to bring it up before, but did you kind of notice with the basically the amount of freedom that Jack has within the ship seems a bit inconsistent. That's kind of one of the little gripes I have with it. I mean, like sometimes he goes into first class and he's kind of told he's not supposed to be there, or he has to be kind of sneaky about it, and then other times he's just there.
Right.
And they don't really bother showing how he ended up there, like when he's talking to Rose on the deck, and then when they go back to his cabin after the scene on the bow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, because in real life there was very strict segregation. You'd never let a third class passenger into first class.
Do you think that they really put those bars and didn't let the lower classes come up?
Apparently those gates weren't really gates like that, but there were gates of some description.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't so much that the third class passengers were kind of specifically barred from going up physically. They were just kind of told they had to wait, and they were quite far down the ship away from the lifeboats, and so they were just very confused and they weren't getting enough information as to what was happening. Mm-hmm. And it was only a few groups of them that were lowered to the deck and were able to get away. So the proportion of third class passengers who died was very high.
Yeah.
Compared to the other classes.
That makes sense. So interesting. All right. That's everything I had. But I really enjoyed it. I'd give it an A. an A grade. I really like it.
Yeah.
And so I've come around on Titanic.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm probably going to be at least partly influenced by nostalgia, but I do really think it is a great movie,
Yeah.
even trying to discount that.
Cool. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you got me to watch it again. It's been a while since I'd seen it, so it was a lot of fun.
Good. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, where can people find you?
Well, I am actually on YouTube. I think I just call myself Richard Southworth there, and I just have a few videos at the moment. My Twitter is PNE Richard, and my blog is velociraptor256.wordpress.com.
Yes. And I'll have links to all that in the description section. And you want to check out all those reviews for the Titanic series. That was really fun. And we are actually going to be meeting again on Sunday morning. And we are going to be talking or doing our his picks, her picks, which should be fun. We're doing sort of experimental fantasy, I guess I'd call it.
Yeah.
With Time Bandits and Stardust. And so those are fun films, and I think it's going to be a good discussion.
It is, yes.
I'm excited. So that's something to look forward to. And I will be posting, I posted my review of the latest Pirates movie on my blog, but I will do some kind of video today, I think, of the movie. So anyway, that's something to look forward to. And you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media and at 54 Disney Reviews on my blog. So I'll put that information down below. And thanks again. This was a lot of fun.
Yes.